Now, what does all of this chaos say about our democracy here in South Africa, the state of our political system?
Well, there are two ways of looking at it. Either you can say that it is more fragile today than it was last night, given the events in Parliament, given the possibility that the integrity and credibility of the institution of Parliament has indeed been damaged from last night. That's the one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that we're maturing as a country politically. We're moving away from the politics of liberation towards policy-centered politics, where a much more robust and combustible political situation occurs in the country, where there's more political competition from newer political entrants, and in a sense that's quite healthy for our democracy. Right. We are, I think, expressing ourselves much more vigorously than ever in the past. We're not afraid to say what we want to say, and that's the positive side to all of this. But I do think that attacking the integrity of Parliament, the misuse and abuse of Parliament, which comes not only from protest action, but it also comes from the executive not really delivering to Parliament what South Africa wants or what the opposition are calling for, really also has led us into this particular political cul-de-sac, to use a cliche. The Parliament represents the broader society of South Africa. If the broader society is relatively satisfied, notwithstanding disagreements, Parliament plays itself out in a rules-orientated fashion. If indeed the broader society is dissatisfied, we will see that dissatisfaction represented in Parliament in some form or other, which we saw last night. There is a frustration in South Africa. I think there's an unease over our political process going forward, and we've seen that manifested in Parliament. Indeed, I would argue the issues in Parliament have become a function of the disdain in many instances that the executive have had for the institution. So we can blame Mr. Malema all we like for disruption, and I think there's good cause to really take the EFF to task about what they've done. But equally, I think there's very good cause to take the ANC to task about the manner in which they have handled Parliament, and in fact the very poor manner in which President Zuma has handled Parliament by not adequately addressing many of the critical questions in the House. And the House should be the real arbiter of South African day-to-day life.
Now, as a political analyst, how do you see us moving forward? What are your predictions for how the Parliament ongoings are going to play out in 2015?
Well, Parliament has to get back on track. I think from a technical point of view, this is the highest legislative body in the land. It cannot descend into chaos on a regular basis. And clearly, I think all the political parties, again, are going to have to meet and again are going to come to some sort of understanding, reach a memorandum of agreement on the way forward. There's plenty of maturity in our political process, I think, to reinvigorate Parliament. There's certainly public interest in Parliament, and that's the positive side of all of this. Whether we all watch Parliament because it's become something of a soap opera, it may not be the right reasons for us to suddenly watch the parliamentary channel. However, having said that, at least South Africans, I think, have regained an interest in the political process, and they've regained an interest in what's happening in the chamber. And I think through civil society and through our political parties, redrawing the rules of the game, and I think sitting down at the table is probably the only option to get the institution back on track. But I tell you, it's going to be a rough ride, I think, for all of us in South Africa. And I think a change of attitude is going to have to come from the ruling party in the manner in which it takes Parliament into its confidence. We cannot have a ruling party ruling without adequately being accountable to Parliament. And I think that change is part of the reason why we've had this level of protest in the National Assembly.